Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by Scott Dickenson, who's physical therapist, athletic trainer, and also CEO at Next Level. So we'll talk a bit more about that later on, the product that he's gone on to design. But Scott, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. No. We've obviously had chats over the last couple of years or so around the product that you've worked with, which is really exciting, and we can touch more a bit about that later on. But where are you speaking from today?
From Philadelphia in the United States. So it is morning time here, afternoon for you guys.
Yeah, very good. The home of Rocky Balboa.
That's right. Yes, and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Philadelphia cheesesteak, all that good stuff.
All that, yeah. So I went to those. I think there's that two restaurants that claim to be the original Philly cheesesteak. Is that right?
Yes, Pat's and Geno's. And then, but if you're from Philadelphia area, you know that neither of those are the actual spot. So yeah, it gets juicier the closer you get to it.
Really, right. So who would you recommend next time I'm over there?
D'Alessandro's.
D'Alessandro's, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Sean McNeil. He knows where to take me next time, and obviously you can as well.
Yes, certainly, certainly.
So, are you from Philadelphia originally?
Yep, grew up here, and outside of schooling, I've been in the Philadelphia area. So I went to the University of Pittsburgh for my undergraduate degree, which is in athletic training. And so in the U.S., those are the people that run onto the sports field when someone's injured. So if the football player gets injured, the athletic trainers in the U.S. are the people that run onto the field. And then so I got my undergraduate degree in that. And then I went to physical therapy school. So in the US, that's a doctorate program. And so that was a 3-year program out on the West Coast in California, Los Angeles. And I went to the University of Southern California. And so that was 3 years. And then there's also the option, at least here in the US, I'm sure there is as well over where you guys are. There's the option to do residency programs after graduating from physical therapy school. And so I did an orthopedic residency at the University of Delaware. So back on the East Coast, where I did various, function as a teacher, as a clinician, as a mentor to students coming up. And so got my hand in a bunch of stuff, and along the way kind of picked up an interest for the neck, the cervical spine, and rehabbing that region. And so right around finishing up residency time, I got interested in what I'm doing now, which is running a company around a product that I developed called Next Level. And as you said, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, no, that was a great summary of you basically. That was really good. So for like, what made you want to do athletic training? Just I think for the UK purposes, so that BASRAT, which is the Association of Sports Rehabilitators, they've got a partnership with athletic trainers. So it's a very similar qualification to that. So what got you interested in doing athletic training?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I wanted to be a physio growing up in high school because the classic story. I injured my ankle. I had surgery. I got exposed to physical therapy as a patient, and I knew I wanted to do that. And my physical therapist there recommended going into athletic training through undergrad because it gets you hands-on with athletes or patients a lot sooner. You just get that interpersonal relationship building, like the interactions. You get to you work as a clinician much earlier than you would if you had to wait till graduate school. And so I just followed that advice, and I was working with the University of Pittsburgh football team, the baseball team, and got some good hands-on experience. But all the while, I knew I was going to go to physical therapy still.
So, like, what is the difference then between a physio and an athletic trainer?
That's a good question. Generally, athletic trainers live with sports teams or within high schools, and they primarily just work with sports teams. And so, Manchester United would have, if they were in the U.S., they would have an athletic trainer, maybe a team of athletic trainers, and they would just be assigned with the team. Physical therapists work primarily out of clinics in the U.S. And so, if you can bill insurance companies for treatment provided as a physio, whereas athletic trainer, you're not doing as much treatment clinically. You're more so working on like with a team and with individual athletes. But it's starting to meld together where athletic trainers are in the clinic more, and physical therapists are getting hired by by big league sports staffs as well. So it's all kind of coming together, but that was classically the distinction.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar over here, really, where we're seeing a lot of the different job titles, even like podiatrist or whatever it may be. They're all blending together, and there's a lot of overlap in each of them. So, like, is there any fundamental differences in terms of what you're actually doing with the patient athletes between a PT and an athletic trainer?
Yeah, I think we both share the ability to provide therapeutic exercise, and nobody owns exercise, of course. Physical therapists are more manually therapist, like are perhaps better trained manual physical therapists or manual therapists. In that, we have 3 years of schooling, and so there's just more time to develop your hands. Whereas athletic training, it actually is just switching over to a master's program now, but historically, it was all in an undergraduate program, usually just 2 years. So the material is pretty condensed and you don't get as much hands-on time. And so physical therapists, I would say classically, and there's always exceptions, but they're usually more uh, apropos or inclined to work with their hands doing manual therapy. Some physical therapists, including myself, do manipulations, adjustments, that type of thing, and that would be a little bit more rare in the athletic training world, but certainly not impossible.
Mm. Yeah. So, what was your main sport that you supported when you grew up?
As an athlete or as a
Bit of both, really. So, either playing and spectating.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I played it all. I'm like a really tall, thin guy, so I played volleyball. I was a goalie in soccer or football. I was a swimmer and skateboarder actually. And then yeah, growing up, I like watching the Philadelphia Eagles, the football team. Just been around sports my whole life, and obviously I got injured playing sports, and so yeah, it's just kind of a part of my DNA these days.
Yeah, Philadelphia's got a rich sporting history, hasn't it, with a lot of the different sports teams out there.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So we have the Philadelphia 76ers, so that's the basketball team, the Flyers, which is the hockey, and then the Eagles are the football team. So those are the big three, and then the Phillies for baseball.
Yeah, isn't it one of the few cities that's got all four major sports?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, probably.
I think it is. I think it's. I like sort of geeky stuff like that. And I think I remember when I was over there, I was like, actually, yeah, Philadelphia's kind of one of the unique ones that's got that. There may be a couple of other ones, but yeah. Anyway, so when you went on to do you said that you always wanted to do physio, so or physical therapy. Why did you always think you did want to do that?
I was always kind of a technical, analytical person. Like, I liked details, and anatomy really did well with just the way my brain's wired. Like, I just kind of clung to the way that we're built and the way that we move. And so, just taking early anatomy classes in high school got me pretty psyched up. And so I was also, interested in helping people like directly, and that's of course what physical therapists do. That's our bread and butter. And so the combination of working with my hands, working with the anatomy, and helping people, that turned out to be a pretty good match for me. Now sitting and looking back in hindsight, it's kind of funny that I wanted to go into physical therapy because it's a lot more social than I had planned it to be, right? It's a very like socially intensive venture. You're talking all day to patients, sometimes two or three at a time, at least here. And so, yeah, you got to be super social and ready to chat all day long. And so, for someone who tends towards introversion like me, that was a bit of a wake up call.
So yeah, so when you realized that, then what were you expecting when you decided to do that? If that was your like thought process about being more introverted when you were going to do PT?
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good question. I guess maybe I didn't realize I was as introverted as I was growing up. It just I just assumed that you had to go out and push yourself and be social, and that everybody like kind of felt the same way about interacting with people on all day long. But yeah, I think over time you learn about yourself more and more, and so where I found myself now, running a company where I'm not head on with patients all day long, interacting all day long. It suits my personality much better. obviously I could have dealt with it and continued down the physical therapy road if needed, but this just happened to work out.
Yeah, no, definitely good to do things that we do a lot of personality tests within Physical at my company, and I think I'm a big believer in you do what you enjoy doing, because it's like if you're trying to force yourself to do something, you're not going to be very good at it, and well, it's life's too short to be miserable all the time.
Sure, sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then so when you were doing that, then like, was there a point when you thought, is this have I made a big mistake here, or do I want to be doing this, when you were going in to do your physical therapy?
That's a good question. I never felt like I made a mistake because the education that I received and the mentorship that I had and the relationships that I built, all that felt right. The whole time that felt good. What didn't feel good was once I was like on the front lines every day, just battling, working with patients, like documenting, like that really took it out of me. And I knew pretty soon that this was not going to be a full-time thing for me. Like I could have seen a part-time scenario where I was working with patients some of the time, doing other stuff other time. And that's probably why I did residency in the first place. Residency is a good opportunity to get exposed to academia and build relationships for teaching opportunities. So yeah, I think even as a student, I probably knew that I would not be a full-time clinician, and so I had been looking for different paths to take. I considered doing a PhD for a little while. I considered going into, trying to become faculty and teaching. And then entrepreneurship kind of just fell into my lap when I had an idea for a product. And so, yeah, it was something I had to give. That's for sure. And so luckily it did.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, it worked out. So for one, just to explain what you mean by residency.
Yeah, so after similar to at least in the U.S. Medical school, you'd graduate from medical school, and you have this wide but not very deep knowledge of the body, how to treat the body. Residency is really good for honing in on a specialty, and so at least in the U.S. you can do residency in orthopedics, sports, neurologic issues, cardiovascular issues, geriatrics, so working with older people, wound care, so working with different wound issues. And so you can go into any of those fields and specialize. And what that does is it just gives you like a leg up, and it gives you a lot of experience on the very thing that you're focused on. Concentrated mentorship from people that are also experts in whatever your interest is. So it's basically it's a lot like residency for medical doctors. You just get exposed and start learning exactly what you're going to be doing.
And then, so at what point did you have this idea for what you've gone on to do?
Yeah, so I was probably my third year of physical therapy school, so just about to graduate, and I was off in a clinic rotating as a student, and the product is around neck rehab and neck strengthening, and so I was interested in that for a while just because I liked manual therapy for the neck for people with neck pain. You could really have a profound impact using your hands, and so I was always drawn to that body region anyway, and so I saw several patients, under my clinical instructor, and I saw several patients, and it just didn't feel like we had the necessary equipment for neck strengthening exercises or neck range of motion exercises. And so that kind of got me thinking, and I was like, it feels like we can do better because I'm sure you've been in the clinic, Andy. You've seen that people who have neck issues, they show up, and if they need to do strengthening exercises for their neck, it's pretty awkward. It's pretty awkward to the point where some physical therapists don't even do neck strengthening exercises because it's so barbaric or archaic. And so I would have patients like tie a resistance band around their head to do neck strengthening exercises. We would have them just like lift their head up against gravity lying down on a table. And so, you look around a clinic and there's all this nice equipment, better than anybody. Nice equipment for the knee, nice equipment for the shoulder. You can do quad extension. There's always something for you if you have a neck issue, or sorry, if you have a knee issue or a shoulder issue, elbow. But it just felt like we had kind of forgot about developing equipment for the neck. And so that was the impetus. That was what got me interested. And as I said, I was a skateboarder growing up, And so I had a skateboard lying around in my house, and I was just curious how it would feel if I lied down and put the skateboard underneath my head and turned back and forth. And so the skateboard would, of course, slide underneath me as I turned left and right. And the grip tape was super rough on the back of my head. That wasn't comfortable, but the concept was there where you could do range of motion exercises in a gravity eliminated position. So obviously, as we stand up tall, gravity is compressing our spine, for better or worse. And so for symptomatic patients, just turning left and right in a gravity dependent position can be painful relative. If they sit down and do that same motion, it can be much better tolerated. And so I just noticed that immediately I could do like simple range of motion exercises on my skateboard. And I had a history of neck issues, some whiplash injuries in the past. And I liked that feeling. I liked to be able to turn my head in a weightless position, kind of like, turning your head on the moon, I imagine. And so that was the birth of the idea. And then we needed to figure out a way to add resistance bands, to add a resistance system to do strengthening on top of the range of motion. And so, of course, as a physical therapist, I turned to TheraBand style resistance. And that was kind of off to the races. So we did several years of research and development where I was, leaning on my physical therapy student friends that went through school with me. I was sending them these clunky prototypes to use with their patients in the clinic. It's kind of amazing that it all worked out looking back, because some of those things that got into the clinic were pretty wild. And I don't think if I had the connections I did, that would have been as pretty or as easy. So, we just had some early green lights. Like my neighbor bought one of these like super ugly prototypes just because he loved that feeling of turning left and right. And the prototypes evolved from the skateboard to the butt slider that when you're using the rowing machine, the thing that your butt's moving back and forth on. That was the smoothest thing I could find. And so that's what we used for a while for the sliding mechanism. And so moved through into like getting a patent because this was a novel idea. This was an invention, it turned out. And so yeah, I mean, I can keep going if you want down this whole story, but
Well, yeah, keep going. Yeah, carry on.
yeah. So we filed for and I say we, it was myself. It's a habit now of just trying to sound bigger than we were back then. And so I learned that early on. But yeah, I had just a series of green lights where patients would buy it. Like one patient that I had never met was using it in a clinic in Los Angeles with my friend. And she reached out, and we're friends still now. Like, she had a profound result from this clunky prototype, and she needed one for her home. And so we got her that. So it just felt like I was onto something. And the whole time I'm living with my parents, and all my money as a physical therapist was going into the business. And I was super excited about the idea because it felt like there was a strong need, and it also was a pathway out of the full-time clinical life. And so yeah, we launched the first model, the model that we initially connected on, Andy. We launched that 2 years into me prototyping and playing around and using a 3D printer, all that stuff. You're really just having no idea what I was doing. We would make those devices, in my basement, and we'd sell them to professional sports teams. Like, it was a crazy time. And so luckily now we learned a lot from those 2 years on the market. And we've just recently launched several new products, updated, made better in several different ways, based on the feedback that we've gotten from the various clinicians. We're probably in like 200, 300 physical therapy clinics here in the US. And then several patients have, as a result of good experiences, got them for home. And so what boils down to is like neck rehab kind of was a pain in the ass. And I think we've provided a better way to do neck strengthening and neck stretching exercises, both clinically and then outside of the clinic in people's homes.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpick there. So just going back to that first time when you lay on the skateboard and you were like, what was the feeling that you had then? Like when you were doing it, was you thinking, is it like a bit of an epiphany to think, hang on, this could be something?
It felt too good to be true, and it felt too obvious. It was like, how has nobody done this already? This is a no brainer. Like, come on. And so I was searching the U.S. patent database for a while, just like waiting to be disappointed that somebody had already filed a patent and this was already on the market. But of course, a bunch of Google searches, patent searches, nothing came back with anything, and it was like, wow, I guess we're onto something. And the best feeling early on, still the best feeling, is when a PT says, "Why didn't I think of this?" Because it does like fill that obvious need for neck rehab, I would say. So yeah, I think I knew right when I lied down, like, ooh, this could be something. But of course, it was so early. I had never developed a product before. Like, I didn't know anything. So it was just excitement back then.
And who was the first person you told once you'd lay down and done that? What was the next step, literally?
Oof, that's a good question. I probably had my mom and my dad lie down on it in our kitchen. Yeah. Yeah, and then I got my neighbor, and then the neighbor, that's who bought one. So yeah, those were the early days. People close to me physically.
It wasn't literally a skateboard that he bought, was it?
Oh no, no, he bought the rowing machine slider with two decks above and below it.
So, like when you were doing this, you'd mentioned that you'd maybe decided that being, I mean, had you worked out then that you thought PT wasn't for you then, or full-time PT?
Yes, yes. I think after getting through residency, I knew that I needed something else, and I still enjoy treating patients. I'll go and treat patients per diem here, no problem. If people need a sub, I'm happy to jump in. Like it's enjoyable, but at the level of 40 hours per week, that's when it started to really grind me down. And so yeah, that was always like I needed something.
So, and then, so were you actively thinking of ideas for what you could be doing with that the rest of your week, or like how did this was it business something that you'd been looking at, or were you actively looking for saying, right, I don't want to be doing this 40 hours a week, so I need to find something that I can do for the remaining 30?
It was more so just playful early on. It was just interesting. Like I had no mechanical background, I had no engineering background. I was just having fun on the weekends and after work, you know, not thinking that this would become anything. And that's probably what some of the magic was. It was just so simple. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and that's why I kept going with it. I had opportunities to jump right into that role that I thought I wanted as a faculty path, clinician that gets to mentor students as well, like, hands in all three of those buckets. So you're not treating full time. Like I had that opportunity, but at the moment, like Next Level was so exciting. That's the name of the company. It was so exciting that I just took a role as a full time clinician somewhere, just to have more money coming in and to fund the business.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And like, had you like, what was your experience with business? Like, whether had you had aspirations of having your own business at any point?
Uh, no, I would say overall no. But I can recall several instances of like meeting and learning about like friends and close family that had gone on and done their own thing, and just kind of being in awe of what they had done and how they had done it by themselves, and how they had kind of bypassed the system of climbing the corporate ladder, blah blah blah. And so I was always fascinated by them, but I never had any aspirations to do so. And I think there's always that resistance where if you didn't go to school for it, you think you can't do it. And that's like that, like it's amazing how many people assume that I had like a business background in college and that I was an engineer as well. Like that's like the assumption. It's like neither are true. And I've just kind of like learned as I go. And that's the best part, is just learning on the fly exactly what needs to be learned and done.
Yeah, no, that's it. I was talking with, I looked at various different things of doing an MBA and these different things. But I really, for my thoughts, is that you learn things so quickly when you're literally dealing with problems. Like we were talking about your website before we came on, and it's like you're constantly dealing with problems, and kind of the way that you approach those is that's the best way to learn on anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't feel like work. You don't study for anything. It's just give me the information I need. And obviously the internet, YouTube is so valuable. And Yeah, an MBA certainly would be cool, but would it help me any more than 3 years of business, like actual business experience in this company? I doubt it.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the reason why I didn't go down that route. But it's I guess it would be like, who's in the company now then? As in, like, is it you just the owner, or how does that bit work?
Yeah, so I'm the owner, and we have several advisors, some of whom you know. We have some investors, and then just a team, an army of independent contractors. We have our manufacturing team, and independent contractor for graphic design, for website development. It's amazing what you can do with independent contractors.
And so who do you like? Who do you confide in? Who do you, if you're having a major issue with something, and you just need to rant and get it off your chest? Like, who do you speak with about those problems?
Oh, my girlfriend. Yeah. My the investors. We have some advisors who have walked the walk. They've already been down this path, and so they're unfazed by any of these little problems. And so yeah, no, I definitely have people to lean on as needed. But um, you know, Mark Cuban, like his mentality is like, just figure it out yourself. You don't need anybody. Just do it yourself. And so I've tried to adopt that as well. Journaling, writing down stuff, getting it out of my head onto a piece of paper. That's always helpful.
Right. So you do journal.
Of course, yeah. And then more recently, as I've gotten lazier, I like to voice journal, where I just click record and just on the app on the iPhone, and it just listens, and I label the date, and that's that. And so uh, perhaps the same output, probably a little bit faster, and I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, 'cause I've gone through different phases. If like if you're having a tough time or a tough day or whatever, it is good to get it out. And I'll like phone friends, or yeah, my fiance, she's definitely listens to a lot of crap for me, that's for sure. But I think it is good to get it out. So do you journal good and bad, or does it go one way or the other?
For me, it ends up being like there are several things bouncing around in my head, usually negative, for something that's been bothering me, like, and I can't quite like parse it out in my head, and I need to take the time to put it on paper. And in that 30-minute process, I can figure out what exactly is bothering me, the action steps to take, whether this is business or relationship stuff. Like, it's when a problem feels too complex to work it out in my head in the shower or whatever, and I need to get it down on paper and simplify it, or just look at it.
That's really interesting then. So how often do you do it?
Depends how bad times are, when times are good, I don't journal a ton, and then when times are more challenging, then every day, every morning for sure. It just depends. I've been trying to track this journey with Next Level, with these with both journal, handwritten, and these audio recordings, just so I have something to look back on the whole experience, because for a long time I didn't know if it would work. And so, like, those are the really interesting journal entries to look back on, where you just have no idea. There's so much up in the air. There's so much confusion, and a lot of insecurity around, like, how am I going to make a living? Am I really helping people in the way that I hope to? And so, like that's the juicy stuff looking back.
Is there one particular time that you're able to share that you can really think, my God, that was more than a half an hour session, or it was a big one?
Oh, yes. Yeah, of course. I you learn in the dealings of people how important the relationship is, and how important listening to your gut is. Like, that's become like more and more apparent to me, is like how valuable that initial gut feeling that you get from people is. And so I say that because I got involved with the wrong manufacturer early on, and I wasted about a year with this entity, and the whole time it never felt right, and I ignored it. And it was like it was like a gut wrenching feeling every time trying to interact with this person, or trying to get a message back, like they weren't a good communicator. But I, in some way, put that on myself, that for whatever reason, that was on me, and I should adapt to them. But like, if it never feels good, it just probably isn't good. And that goes for relationships and business or whatever else. And so, yeah, several journal entries went into like, how do we deal with the fact that we sunk a significant amount of money into this relationship that is going to explode, and how do we walk away with our head held high, having wasted a bunch of time and money, and yeah, still a lot of like guilt and embarrassment around that whole engagement, but learned a lot, and now it's just like, if it doesn't feel right at any step in the process, cut it. It's got to go.
Yeah, and how good are you at sticking to that?
Better now, certainly better now. I can get rid of scenarios that are bothering me a lot quicker. Scenarios, people, developers, whoever. That's a lot easier because I realize how much mental space they're taking up, and how better my life would be if they're not in it. No offense to them, they're great people, but I just don't want to work with them.
Yeah, no, it's true, isn't it? I think the gut thing is, I actually read a book by your very own Donald Trump, America's, not your personal one, and he was taught one of his chapters was go with your gut on it, and it's like it's actually I mean I'm not saying I'm a Donald Trump fan at all, but the book is I really enjoyed it. This is about 20 years ago that it came out. He actually talked about being president in that, so it is yeah, it's amazing that. But yeah, going with your guts, it is a thing, isn't it? And it's like very rarely, if you do that, are you wrong with it? I would say. Obviously, I'm referring to me in this instance. So, like, at what point did you? Is that something that you've learned yourself, or have you read that? Like, how have you come up with that as a thing?
I guess it's just learning on the fly. You intuitively, like, I think we've evolved to read people and get a feeling for them instantly, and obviously that feeling, like, that is the first impression. That's what we're talking about when we talk about the first impression. And so, it's not something to ignore. It's something to really lean into. It's something to listen to. That's why, like, on a first date, instantly if you want to go on a second date with them or not, right? Like, it's like all that is deep within us. And so, I guess just using, like, flexing that muscle, exercising that muscle has become more of a focus for me over time, because you get exposed, as an entrepreneur, you get exposed to a lot of people, and a lot of people want your money to help you grow your business. And so you got to be able to read them, read the situation, and not waste your time or your energy with the wrong people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you spend time reading books around business and personal and professional development?
A bit, a bit. How to win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie. That's like the Bible. That's my Bible, and I'll read that like maybe once a year. And then, uh, The Art of Negotiation, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, FBI negotiator. Like, just those two books, I would say, were overly valuable compared to other stuff I've read. And then, as far as business goes, I'm a huge Alex Hormozy fan, if you know who that is.
Yeah,
I
yeah. He's a PT, isn't he? Well, as in the personal trainer, like he runs gyms and things.
Yes, yes. So he came up in the gym world, and just a badass entrepreneur who's done really well for himself, and just simplifies business for people who want to listen to him. And so he's got two books, and I've read them both very carefully, and I would say those, like, those three people have been like outsized helpful for me.
That's great. They're very diverse in terms of when they're from and their backgrounds and stuff. So now that's really cool. Yeah, no, I think Alex Hormozy, I mean, incredibly, because he's quite a young guy. He's in insane shape, isn't he, as well? Like he seems like he's extreme in everything he does, but very philosophical in the way that he talks about business and people and his approach to things.
Yeah, absolutely. And every step of the way, since I've been digesting his stuff, it just always seems to come true, and his advice, it always seems to ring true. And I really can't recommend him enough to anybody. in the entrepreneur world, trying to get into the entrepreneur world, that is the guy to follow, because he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He agrees, and he's lived how hard the entrepreneurship path is, and so it's really only for people like looking to swallow that red pill type of lifestyle.
Yeah, no, cool. And then so one of the big things for me was remember when Ken Johnson, who's our mutual friend in this, but he texted me saying, "My God, Next Levels on Netflix." So do you want to talk me through that whole scenario?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this was obviously a pinch me moment where your device, your baby that had came from your parents' garage, is featured on Netflix with none other than the best living or the best active quarterback on the planet, Patrick Mahomes. And so, yeah, I had a friend. Uh, my friend's friend texted my friend, and then my friend texted me, "Yo, Scott's device is on Netflix," and I was like, "What?" Because nobody, Netflix didn't reach out. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes didn't reach out. But the way it happened was it got featured on the quarterback documentary, and so it's episode 3, around the 8th minute, if anybody wants to go check it out. But it's Patrick Mahomes is doing some neck strengthening with his personal trainer, Bobby Stroop. And so we connected with Bobby like maybe 2 years before the episode aired, and he just DM'd us, "Nice device." And that was it. And then, of course, in his profile, I quickly learned that he was Mahomes' personal trainer, and said, of course, we mailed him a unit, no questions asked. And it was pretty much radio silence after that. Like, we weren't sure if they were using it. I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, people are just texting me, "Yo, your device is on Netflix," and that's that. Of course, you aren't. It's a challenge to screen record on Netflix. Like, they try to prevent that so that you can't just rip movies off of their stuff. And so we had to find ways around that, so we could show people that yes, indeed, Patrick Mahomes is using our product.
Yeah. So what was your initial feeling when you saw it or heard about it and then saw it?
Well, if you watch it, of course, I noticed the details immediately where you can't see the product's logo very well. Like, only a few people said they had paused it and zoomed in enough to figure out the name of the product, and that did, of course, get us a few sales. But I was like, "Dang it, the logo's not showing." And then if you saw the headband that we used for getting grip got caught in his hair. So my two initial reactions were like, "Damn it, like, can't see the logo, headband's caught in his hair." But there's really no such thing as bad news, bad public relations, bad PR. Like, it's all good stuff. So it's also great because like that ages so well. Like, there, that's an evergreen clip of him using our product. That's ours forever.
Yeah. No, it is amazing. So what are your plans for the company?
Yeah, good question. So as we discussed, we just launched about 2 years of work in 3 new products, and so we're a month into that. So this is a brand new chapter for us. We have a new model that people can get to use at home for their neck issues. 2.0 of our Pro model, so clinics can use that, pro sports teams can use that. And then we built a wall mount for that Pro model because clinicians kept saying, "Hey, this is great lying down, but can we use it in more functional positions like sitting or standing?" And so we built a wall mount so that the same product can go up and down from the wall. And so all of that has been, 2 years of intense focus. Meanwhile, trying to promote our product that was on the market. So we are now in a nice new place, and we're still kind of getting our feet under us. So to be honest, I haven't done a ton of thinking about the next 5 years. We're just trying to grow the company here in the U.S. at the moment. Yes, there are more ideas for inventions, but those are, I have to stay disciplined, and I have to focus on the winner that we have right in front of us, and not get distracted by the opportunity to be creative again.
Yeah, can be hard, can't it? If you've got loads of ideas, yes, it's quite good to have someone to just say, right, yeah, great, get it, put it, journal it, and then come back and do this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would your advice be for people that are thinking about maybe for people like physical therapists, physios, athletic trainers, sports rehabbers, whatever, but maybe you've got an idea, like what would your advice be for those people?
Yeah, if you have an idea, that's probably, it's probably an invention. I would say you got to build a prototype. I've had a surprising amount of PTs reach out and get on a phone call with me talking about my process and telling me about their idea. And the vast majority of them had stopped short of making a prototype. It was still in idea mode, and the idea is pretty much useless. No offense to the idea. It's going to change a lot once you make it in the real world. So building a prototype is definitely step one. Like hands down, that's what you have to do. Like, can you make it real, and do people like it? It's obviously not going to look good. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be like it looks like a skateboard or just a hackneyed butt rowing machine. Like that, it's not going to be perfect, but it's the function that matters. It's how people feel using it, and so that information should inform you as to if you're on something or not. Do you have that green light? And then there's some legal considerations for you where you might want to do NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, where if you are going to expose your idea that might be patentable, you probably want to have people sign some NDAs so that you're covered and you can still get a patent on your device if you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. So that's the gist of it. Is prototype it, see if you're onto something. If you're onto something, you're going to want to patent it so that it's yours, and then you get to go into the fun stage of manufacturing, design for manufacturing, and then after that is marketing. So it's a massive journey. It's a giant undertaking. One of my mentors who developed a PT product said it's going to take twice as long and hurt twice as much as you think it's going to. And I would say that he was wrong. For me, it's been 10x both of those things. And so that is the mentality to have going into it. It's not going to be fun, most of it. It's going to feel like work for a long time. Um, but if it feels right, you'll know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to end. 10x, that's a very Grant Cardone. I don't know if he's someone that you follow, but I read his book recently, and it's yeah, that's another big driver, very salesy, but really motivational as well.
Yeah, good guy as well. Yeah, there's no shortage of inspiration on the internet these days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I think you've done amazingly well to get the product to where it is now. Really pleased to see it's going so well, and I'm looking forward to doing more work with you on it going forward. So thank you for sharing your time and your insights today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been an honor, and everybody in the UK, hello from the US. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, Scott. Thank you.